Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 2021 edition of the AWS User Group UK. We are live on Twitch. I can see some of you filing in. We're currently 32 viewers. That usually goes up over time. I can see Ratty Miles on there. Hello, Ratty Miles. Hello, Paul Spratley. Glad you're here, since you're going to be pasting links into the channel. Hopefully, Isa Huega, who's going to be chatting to us on the panel later on today, and Guns of Brixham. Good evening, Guns of Brixham. Hope everyone's well. So I guess what's happened since we were last here together? Well, pubs and restaurants are open again. You can now legally have a pint indoors, but also the advice is you should maybe try and avoid that. Some travel is legal now. You can go to some countries, but also the advice is that maybe you shouldn't do that. Difficult to know exactly what we're doing today. Vaccinations have been happening in the last couple of months. I've had my first vaccination. Hope you've also been out getting your jabs as well. Exciting things in the AWS landscape happening as well. EKS, as of this week, now supporting Kubernetes 1.20, so you can now ignore that version, just as you did the last one, and embrace all of those security holes that you're doing. Phil Basford, who's also going to be joining us on the stream later on, is saying, "Go out, don't go out, go out." Yep, absolutely that, Phil. Phil's been to an office today. That's brave, isn't it? Good job, Phil. Other exciting AWS things this week. AWS have announced. Oh, Christ, it's been a long day. They've announced the AWS App Runner product, which looks to be a replacement for Elastic Beanstalk, which frankly couldn't have come soon enough. Elastic Beanstalk, as it is, being one of the worst things that AWS have done. We've been kicking the tires on it today. Looks pretty interesting. Good way to get code from either your Git repos or your ECR registries straight into production with monitoring and logging and load balancing and stuff. So all great stuff. If you are joining us today from somewhere outside the UK, do say hello. We have had people from all the way over in Australia and other places. So let's see who's the furthest guest we have on the stream today. So other things that are coming up at the moment, the AWS EMEA Summit is happening in June the 9th and 10th, which is of course the same week as HashiConf, same week as our All Hands, my company's All Hands, same week as a whole bunch of other things going on. Lots of stuff happening in that week seemingly. We'll be talking to the panel later about what they might be hoping to see launched at the summit. Be interesting to see what we might get. Also, AWS Reinforce tickets now on sale as of this week, as of yesterday in fact. That's going to be in Houston, Texas. That's a conference on security things, so presumably 2 days of talking about IAM and service control policies and that sort of thing. All very exciting. Of course, it's a country that's currently on the amber list. It's a state where probably a lot of the people there are maybe under the impression that the COVID is a hoax and the vaccine is some kind of tracking device implanted by the government, and that masks are not necessary and other things. So whether or not going there is a great idea, I don't know. I've got my ticket. I don't know what that says about me. Also, that sounds like reInvent's going to be happening in person again this year. So again, that's in a country that's on the amber list, in probably the worst place in America, to be honest. I hate Vegas, really, and in a city full of people with poor understanding of odds and probabilities. Maybe that's not the best place to be either. It remains to be seen whether I'll be there. So speaking of geography, why don't you tell us where you are? Where in the world are you? Pretty quiet on the chat this evening. Is anybody actually awake? Maybe everyone's joining from the pub now. Maybe now that you can go to the pub, nobody's paying attention to the meetup group. Who knows? Ratty Miles is in Leeds. Good job, Leeds, fellow Yorkshireman. Well, I mean, maybe you're not. Maybe you just live there. I'm from Yorkshire originally. Currently in London as an economic migrant, I guess. Halifax. We've got Oxfordshire. Hello from Lincoln, Buckinghamshire. Sutton, Edinburgh. There we are. Edinburgh is maybe our furthest away. Oh, Amsterdam. Actually, is Amsterdam further away than Edinburgh from London? I'm actually not sure. My geography is pretty poor. Kent, that's just down the road from me. I'm right now in Woolwich, SE18, a mere train ride away from Kent. We've got someone in London. Yep, London is distant, maybe. I've actually only been into London maybe once or twice in the last year, so it has seemed like quite a long way away. But Epping from Cloud Security Guy. Good. We've got a fairly local crowd this evening, I guess. So I'm going to take you through some of the things that are going on in the user group, and then we're going to get into the content and start listening to what our guests have to say. So obviously we are on Twitch. You know that we're here right now. That's where you're watching this. You can subscribe to the page and you'll be notified when these things happen, but typically we're emailing you about it and tweeting about it ahead of time anyway. We also are on Twitter. If you want to follow AWS User Group UK, that's where we're also talking about our upcoming events. And I don't know if Paul runs the Twitter account. Do you banter with people on Twitter, Paul? I don't know how much banter goes on Twitter. Maybe we should start. It seems like the way to get attention on Twitter is to banter. Certainly, every time I've shit posted my way through an AWS launch in a sort of Corey Quinn style, that's when I get the most interaction on Twitter. It's not really the most rewarding of platforms to do that on. There we go. We are also on Discord. So we set up the Discord maybe about 2 months ago, something like that, and actually announced it at our last meetup. We've got quite a lot of people on Discord, a lot of tumbleweed, not a lot of conversations going on. So we've got some things lined up that are Discord focused that will hopefully encourage you there. And in fact, once we've wrapped up here today, why don't you head on over to Discord and continue the conversation there with people that you've been chatting with on Twitch? Because as soon as this stream is over, there's going to be no more chatting and stuff going on there. So Discord, though, throughout the months in between the meetups and everything else, that is where we're going to be conversing. So one of the things that we're doing on Discord coming up on the 26th of May at 7 in the evening. We're joined by Jan Cooey, who is a serverless hero. You may have seen him give a conference talk, or you may be subscribed to some of his courses, or you're on maybe a mailing list of his. He's going to be joining us for an Ask Me Anything session. You can join Discord right now. There is a channel specifically for the Ask Me Anything for Jan, and you can use that right now to ask questions that Jan will then be answering on the 26th of May. So I believe that QR code should link you to the invite to that channel. If you are on Discord as well, someone can point you in the right direction. It should be easy to find the channel. There's a channel section called AMAs, I think, and there's a channel called Jan Cooey, which is where Jan is going to be doing that. So hopefully we'll encourage some of you to join Discord in the time in between our Twitch streams. We're also on LinkedIn, where you can be if you want to be harassed by recruiters who can't spell your name properly, which is basically my experience of LinkedIn this morning, as you'll know if you're paying attention to my drivel on Twitter. We're also running some online study groups. Now, this is right now there's a Get AWS Certified Challenge happening, which is run by AWS, and this particular season for that challenge ends on July the 1st, with 9,000 people already registered. That's not just from our user group. That's I think worldwide, or maybe Europe. I'm not actually sure what the scope of that is. In that group, we're aiming to get people through the Certified Cloud Practitioner exam. So if you haven't got any AWS certificates, I should just slow down, shouldn't I? If you haven't got any AWS certifications right now, the Cloud Practitioner will be the place to start. That's the sort of the foundational certificate. And if you are interested in doing that, we can get you access to on-demand training, and there's a voucher available for the practice exam. If you pass the practice exam, as I'm sure you will, as a bright human being who knows all about these things, we can also get a hold of a voucher for you for the actual exam itself. That's worth $100. We can also get you vouchers for any of the other exams. So if you're thinking about doing a Solutions Architect Associate or Professional, or one of the specialty exams, actually Satish, who's going to be talking shortly, he has all of these, so he's probably the best person to talk to about this. You can ask us for access to a voucher for those exams. So don't pay any of your real hard-earned actual money for an AWS exam. We can cover some of the cost of that for you. And in fact, to be honest, your employer should be doing that as well, in my view. That's the study groups. We will be surveying you at the end of the into the stream today. Please do fill it out. It's useful to understand what's working well, what isn't working so well, and we use that to tune how we're putting the event together. So again, QR codes there. Paul, I think, is going to be sharing the link in the channel as well. There we go. Good old Paul. We're a great team, Paul, aren't we? Good job. I'm going to share the link to this and the QR code to this at the end of the stream as well, so don't feel like you have to start doing it right now. Let's see, who else have we got joining this evening? Adia Rise from Reading. I think I've pronounced that name right. DC Gaming. Oh, DC Gaming's got questions about uploading files bigger than 5 gigs to AWS. Well, I guess there are some smart people on here who can answer that question for you. I'm not going to have a crack at that right now, but maybe on take it over to Discord. There are probably some people who can answer it on Discord over there as well. Let's have a look at our sponsors. So one of our sponsors this evening is Deloitte, and I'm going to play a message from Deloitte using this button right here.
Hello and welcome to the AWS User Group. My name is Daniel Gould, and I'm a consultant within Deloitte's cloud engineering practice. I've been with Deloitte for the past 2.5 years and have had the pleasure of taking on a variety of roles, including architect, product owner, business analyst, but also AWS Learning and Development Lead for cloud engineering. Deloitte recognized that as so many of our solutions to client problems involve aspects of cloud, we need to make sure our people possess the latest skills and knowledge in order to provide our clients with the best quality solutions. It's great to see so many of you joining this user group virtually and come together as a community to learn and celebrate the vast array of technology available via Amazon. I'm passionate about AWS has to offer and how its technology has been utilized so brilliantly over the past 12 months. At Deloitte, we have helped organizations shift to remote working using solutions like Amazon Connect, or moving from a brick and mortar based model to online overnight. With this surge in demand, AWS skills are more necessary than they ever have been. We are always looking to grow our cloud practice, so if this is something of interest, please do reach out. Otherwise, sit back, relax, and enjoy what are sure to be fantastic talks from Dimple and Matthew from Compare the Market and Satish from Deloitte.
Thank you, as ever, for your support, Deloitte. And as Daniel says there, Satish, who's our first speaker, is a Deloitte consultant, I guess is probably the right word for that job. And he's got some great stuff to tell us about Guard Duty and AWS Security Hub. We'll also hear this evening from our second sponsor, which is eSynergy Solutions, who have this to say about themselves.
My name is Ramona Fuchs. I work for eSynergy Solutions and head up our partnerships team. And AWS is a key partnership for us, and we heavily invest into the practice to make sure we can stay on top of the AWS service and technologies and be a real addition to our clients, but as well to our community when you look at those trends in the market. A bit of a shameless plug. At eSynergy Solutions, we're focusing on delivering measurable outcomes for customers and clients. We love working on complicated things, so we focus on the regulated sectors of public sector and financial services. And we predominantly work on cloud adoption topics, but as well cloud native software engineering and data engineering. If you would like to know more, please reach out to us. We always love to chat, to listen, to learn, to share. We'd like to grow a community. For us, it's really important to get a very diverse community set up in the technology sector, and would love to hear your thoughts. But as well, if you would like to get involved, whether it is on customer sites or projects or just to meet us, please do get in touch.
Thank you, eSynergy. And eSynergy are also supporting something else that we're doing, which I'm going to tell you about in just a second. We also thank Sainsbury's Tech. Sainsbury's is the location where we would be holding these events in person, if that was a thing that we could do right now. But obviously, we haven't been able to do that. So we haven't been able to really take advantage of the generosity of Sainsbury's Tech thus far. But we certainly will be at some point. I think we're looking at the rest of the year and figuring out which of these things we can start to do it in person again. More information about that to come. I guess the other thing that I can say is that those sponsors obviously are hiring. We also have organisers involved in this event who work for companies who are also hiring. If you are interested in working for Codurance as a software craftsperson, I believe that's what they're hiring. Nat, who is one of our organisers and our diversity lead, works for Codurance and can tell you a bit more about that. Obviously, if Nat works there, they must be great people. I can definitely vouch for Nat. No doubt Codurance are great as well. I think if Nat is paying attention, she's going to be pasting the link to that job description in the channel shortly. And guess what? I'm hiring. The Scale Factory is currently hiring for AWS solutions architects, particularly those who have a sort of sales bent. So if you're maybe you're a technologist who is reasonably persuasive, you found, we'd love to talk to you about whether you could join our team, help design solutions for our customers, and convince them to pay money for them. That's broadly what we do. So I will paste a link to our job ad when I've stopped talking into this microphone, and you can see there as well. What else are we doing? Look, I've got a new camera that I set up here. We're now a 2-camera operation. It felt important to give you a behind the scenes view because my setup is ludicrous, and I've spent a lot of time and energy and quite a bit of money on it. So here we are. Here's me behind the scenes. You didn't really need to know that, but I wanted to show it. So because I'm in charge, I have the microphone and the cameras and the buttons. I'm afraid you just have to deal with that. So I mentioned that eSynergy are sponsoring another activity for us at the moment. We are running a inclusivity sponsorship. So we, at the end of last year, we ran a survey to understand the demographic makeup of our community, to try and understand, is it all white dudes basically? To be fair, in the majority, yes, but we do have people from other backgrounds as well. We've made a lot of effort to put underrepresented groups on our stage and give them opportunities to speak. That's something that we've actively sort of gone out to do. And one of the things that we're doing also right now is providing an opportunity for people from underrepresented groups who would like to learn how to speak in public about their technology work and tell a personal story. We are providing an opportunity to sign up to a public speaking workshop that is paid for by eSynergy, our sponsor for this. And the training is from someone that I believe Nat's worked with before, or that people that Nat is associated with have worked with. If you are interested in learning how to use storytelling to elevate communication, demystifying the personal introduction, helping attendees to find if you're interested in finding your personal story, then we have 10 free seats available. The training itself is on the 23rd of June. It starts from 10 a.m. runs till noon. There is an application form available. There's another QR code that you can use, and I think Paul has shared the link in the channel as well, which is excellent. And I think it's a first come first serve. So if you are in the first 10 who fill out that form before the 9th of June, you can come along to that workshop for free. So you can also enter a prize draw paid for by our sponsors. This time around, typically we give away Amazon Echo hardware, which I hesitate to say because I've got one listening in the background over there. We are also, as well as 2 Echo Dots this time around, we've got an AppSync masterclass to give away, which is a piece of training content from Jan Cooey and Gerard Sands. And this is about how to build performant and scalable GraphQL APIs quickly and cheaply without having to manage any infrastructure. So if you're interested in learning some more about GraphQL, then maybe consider entering the prize draw, and maybe you'll get lucky. If you don't get lucky with the masterclass, maybe you will get lucky and win one of 2 Echo Dots. If you are going to enter the competition and you want to win an Echo Dot, you need to be in the UK. We can't ship those internationally right now, I am afraid. Again, QR code to scan. I will be sharing that again in between the sessions so that you can sign up then as well. I think that's all I've got to say about the prize draw. Well, no, that's one extra thing. We also have some vouchers for money off the AppSync Masterclass. So if you enter because you are interested in winning the Masterclass and you don't win, you can also get I think 15% off with a discount code that Paul has just shared in the chat right now. So thank you, Paul. Thank you, Jan and Jared. And hopefully you will win one of those things. Right, finally, you get to stop listening to me natter on. That took rather longer than I usually take, doesn't it? We're going to go over now to our guests and hear about their things. First up, we have Satish Natarajan, who's an AWS specialist leader at Deloitte, who is, of course, one of our sponsors. Like me, he's an AWS Partner Network Ambassador. In fact, I'm so ambassadored up that I've got my Ferrero Rocher here. Only people from a certain age group in this country will probably know what that's all about. But I'm amusing myself, even if I'm not amusing anybody else. So Satish, unlike me, has all 12 AWS certifications, which is obviously quite a lot of work and learning. He's going to tell us about security and compliance on AWS. Then after his talk, we're going to be having a chat, and I'm going to find out how the hell you find the time to study for 12 exams whilst you're also doing an actual job. If you have any questions for Satish throughout the talk, throw them in the Twitch chat. Satish might be paying attention there. He might answer them in line. If not, when we come back and we talk together, then I will probably throw some of your questions at him if they seem interesting to the group. So, without further ado, we're going to go to Satish.
Good evening, everyone. I'm really excited to be here presenting this topic to this user group. My name is Satish Natarajan. I'm a senior manager in Deloitte's technology consulting practice. I'm a lead AWS architect and an AWS EMEA ambassador. I have over 10 years of hands-on AWS experience and currently hold all AWS certifications. Over the last 15 years, I've delivered a number of cloud and digital transformation programs for businesses spanning public, private, and financial services sectors. Today, I'm here to give you an overview of the security and compliance tooling and framework provided by AWS, and then provide a brief summary of two of the must-enable tools on the platform, GuardDuty and Security Hub. So, let's get started. From a security standpoint, you want to be able to look at your tools that fulfill 4 critical controls. The first is detective controls. Now, these establish the governance, risk, and compliance models the environment will operate within. So example here is using AWS organizations where you can define set perimeter of permissions within which the users can operate in that AWS account. Or assigning tags to your valuable resources to help better control those resources. The second is preventive controls. Now, these controls protect your workloads and mitigate threats and vulnerabilities. So, for example, you could require MFA on deletion of sensitive data in an AWS bucket, or deny packets moving from public subnets to private subnets. Third is detective controls. These are the ones that provide full visibility and transparency over the operation of your deployments in AWS. So, logging all AWS API activity via CloudTrail, or alerting your cloud administrators of any AWS config rules that are not compliant fall into this category. And last but not the least are responsive controls. These are the ones that drive remediation of potential deviations from your security baseline. So automatically blacklisting source IP addresses when an attack happens is one of these responsive controls. Now, this diagram provides an overview of various AWS security tooling services and where those services fit into a security and compliance lifecycle. These tools serve the breadth of the compliance lifecycle to identify, protect, detect, and remediate, together with performing vital forensics at the end. So the first service that I would like to talk about in more detail is GuardDuty. GuardDuty is an Amazon detection service that collects log information and then analyzes it for potential threats, whilst providing the ability to use those threats to raise alerts and take affirmative action. It continuously monitors your AWS accounts and resources, discovers threats related to EC2 and IAM with no agents, no sensors, or no network appliances required. It also has built-in anomaly detection with machine learning. So where does it get all this information from? So some of the sources that GuardDuty depends on are flow logs for VPC, which does not need to be explicitly turned on to generate findings, as the data is consumed through independent duplicate streams. DNS logs that are based on queries made from EC2 instances to known questionable domains. DNS logs are in addition to the Route 53 query logs that are available. And Route 53 is not required for GuardDuty to generate DNS-based findings, but it's available. CloudTrail events. So CloudTrail history of API calls used to access the management console, SDK, CLI, etc. are presented by GuardDuty. So identification of user and account activity, including source IP address used to make the calls, are available. So how does it identify threats? So for known threats, these are identified through threat intelligence from the following data feeds: list of known malware infected hosts, anonymous proxies, hacker tools, and cryptocurrency mining tools. For unknown threats, this is detected through observing standard behavior over a period of time and tracking for deviations using machine learning algorithms. So when threats are identified using the approaches listed above, GuardDuty then generates findings. Findings that can be retrieved through the GuardDuty API. However, the main approach is to simply export the findings as CloudWatch events. GuardDuty continuously monitors logs without impacting performance or requiring additional infrastructure. It can be enabled with just one click, and GuardDuty can also consolidate logs across your enterprise. Enabling Security Hub will automatically ensure that GuardDuty findings are sent to Security Hub as well. So let's run through a scenario of an instance compromise. GuardDuty will be tracking the VPC flow logs, DNS logs, and CloudTrail events, and analyzes it against known and unknown threats. When it detects the breach, it will produce a finding, classifying it as a high, medium, or low event, depending on the severity. Also, depending on how GuardDuty is configured, the information is sent to Security Hub, stored into an S3 bucket, or trigger CloudWatch event. The diagram provides an overview of the typical flow of events from GuardDuty to take action on. So GuardDuty detects some issue which are sent to Security Hub automatically. Findings are filtered in Security Hub, and some are sent to Amazon CloudWatch. CloudWatch can then raise an event to a number of different targets to take appropriate action, as you can see here. Here is a scenario of an unusual activity from the internet, identified by GuardDuty on an application load balancer. Once detected, GuardDuty will trigger a CloudWatch event, which in turn calls a step function to perform two key tasks. One is to put the suspicious IP address into a NACL deny list, and second, to update the WAF rules to deny access at the front end from the suspicious IP address. This effectively blocks the attacker from accessing the system any further. Now you have the opportunity to perform forensic investigation on the resource affected. Forensics is an important part of security and compliance in the cloud. The following diagram illustrates how we can use GuardDuty, CloudWatch, Systems Manager, and Lambda to get the list of programs executing on an EC2 box, dump packet information, dump memory, and then snapshot the volume for future use. This allows you to freeze evidence in time for future use. This brings us to another service that I would like to talk to you about this evening, Security Hub. AWS Security Hub is a service for the identification and detection of threats. It acts as a central pane for accessing security and compliance findings. It ingests information from Amazon Guard Duty, Amazon Macy, Amazon Inspector, and is also capable of ingesting information from third parties. Security Hub continuously conducts automated compliance and configuration checks, aggregates findings, provides insights, and can take action on those findings through CloudWatch events. The following are examples of what Security Hub can detect. It can check if CloudTrail is enabled in all regions, detect if the root account is being used, or check if there are any open ingress routes. A CloudWatch event can be raised from Security Hub findings, as you've seen before in our previous illustrations. There could be a tendency to get overwhelmed by false positives on Security Hub. A common scenario is when internet-bound traffic on an EC2 instance is rerouted back through a client's corporate network and associated security tooling and firewalls. Now, this might look suspicious to Security Hub, but you can create an archive filter in Security Hub that specifies conditions under which an event can be safely ignored. What's important to note is that such filters can only be applied from the master account for security reasons. When findings are generated, you should consider automating the remediation action for important findings as soon as possible. However, Security Hub and its feeder systems may identify different findings, and it's difficult to prioritize one over the other. I have therefore listed a number of Security Hub alerts that should be remediated as a priority, as these are considered high severity alerts. As you continue to deploy infrastructure, as code hopefully, you can start operationalizing additional remediation activities. Again, I would recommend that you work through the remaining findings based on their severity as soon as possible. Okay, so I'm ready to start operationalizing remediation. What do I need to consider? Well, first, you should get your tagging right. Having a good tagging strategy is essential while writing procedures to remediate security findings on AWS. Once this is in place, finding infrastructure components becomes much easier. Next, work with your application teams. Every successful IT project requires security and compliance teams to work hand in hand with application teams. Bring them in the journey to secure the environment rather than calling them out when things go wrong. Work closely with the application teams and come up with a joint plan to remediate findings. And what about automated remediation? Well, automated remediation allows you to deal with findings in one of three different ways. You can either get them notify you, letting someone know when there's an issue. You can isolate, so remove access to the asset so it can be triaged and go through individual forensics. Or the third is to terminate and replace. Shut down or replace the instance that is causing the issue. If you're starting with an empty AWS account, automated remediation might be for you. However, for most customers who are actively using or even developing on AWS at the moment, this is often not an option. Therefore, start with a notify approach. This allows you to manually triage and resolve issues, potentially in the infrastructure as cloud libraries, before considering using automated remediation. Well, that's all I had to share with you today. I hope you found this lightning talk really useful. If you wish to speak to me or get in touch, my contact details are now on your screen. I'd like to thank the AWS User Group for this opportunity. Thank you all for your time. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Satish. So I have Satish in the green room right now, waiting to answer some questions. Before we joined the call this evening, I had all of the people that are involved in tonight's Q&A and panel join Skype, and my machine just melted in a heap and started dropping frames. So now I have just the people that we're talking to join, and everything seems fine. But if we drop any frames and everything's a bit glitchy, then I apologise for that. Such is the nature of technology. What I need really is something like a 32 or 64 core M1 Mac. Apple, if you're listening, obviously obviously you're paying attention to the AWS User Group UK. I'd like a really hefty M1 based machine, please. Thank you very much. So let's go over to Satish now, who's actually joining us on the screen. Hello, Satish. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks. Thanks for having me, John. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm not bad. I've got my Ferrero Rochers, although I'm actually not opening them up just yet because the sugar crash is real, and I haven't really eaten properly before we started the call because obviously it's quite difficult to present on a full stomach. Good stuff there, though. We've been working a lot with Control Tower and Guard Duty recently, and all of those kind of good things. Like it's a really rich kind of set of things to use. Let's go quickly to the conversation on Twitch. So I know you've answered a couple of questions there, but I'm going to pull them into this conversation so that they're recorded on video for the sake of future mankind. So Jabbersoft, hello Jabbersoft, asked, as well as VPC flow logs and DNS logs, does Guard Duty monitor egress traffic logs from NAT or VPC gateways, and or can we import proxy logs, for example Squid, to the tool to identify outgoing anomalous behavior? What do you reckon?
Yeah. I think I also probably mentioned that on the chat as well. So Guard Duty is basically focused on trying to make sure your AWS account is completely secure, and it's obviously looking into some of the logs that are, some of the key logs that I mentioned in the presentation as well, in terms of VPC flow logs, the CloudTrail, and the DNS logs, etc. Obviously, then Security Hub is the one that sort of incorporates anything that's available, including Guard Duty, along with any third-party sort of tooling that you want to incorporate. So, if you're trying to bring in some additional information in there, probably Security Hub is the way to go and use.
Gotcha. Jabbersoft, obviously, Satish is a Deloitte consultant. You're going to be getting an invoice for several $1,000s for that answer. We also have another question in a chat from Guns of Brixham. What about preventative controls? For example, infrastructure as code scanning like TFSec, open policy frameworks, etc.
So, in terms of bringing them in or incorporating them, I guess I said, in terms of using any sort of third-party integration, it's usually Security Hub that has that sort of capability to bring in those sort of tooling. I guess the question is more around, can we use them? Of course, you can obviously use some of these toolings to help and improve your sort of security posture and make sure your everything is highly secure and fit for purpose, really.
Yeah, gotcha. I wanted to ask you, you've got 12 AWS certifications. How on earth do you find the time to study for 12 AWS certifications? And I guess, do you have any advice for anyone who's thinking about getting started, particularly people who were maybe interested by the Get a Certification challenge that we mentioned earlier on?
Yeah, it wasn't. I have to say, it wasn't easy. But I probably had the benefit of working hands-on on AWS for over a decade now. So, I mentioned that in my presentation as well. So at the time when I actually started looking into, okay, how do I convert those into sort of credentials? I thought of looking at what certifications were available. And I started my certification journey on AWS since February 2017. And at the time, you know how certification is in AWS. It started out with just 5 certifications with 3 associate and 2 professional certifications, and having the benefit of actually working hands-on on AWS, I was able to sort of crack them, between 4 or 5 months. But then, I guess, as AWS sort of evolved, and with the innovation and more services and features that they sort of offered, the domain started growing, and I was quite interested in some of the new certifications that they put out there in terms of the specialty certifications in big data and advanced networking and other sort of things. So I started getting involved in some of those. Just wanted to broaden my sort of domain as well in AWS, and I started tackling some of those over, each one over 3 or 4 months, because obviously the scope is quite different, and it was quite some niche in terms of the topics as well. Some of these certifications actually that I've done, have either been superseded or discontinued as well, and some have actually done recertification. So it did take quite some time for me to do that. I guess key advice and tips would be to actually do get your hands dirty on using some of these technologies and resources on AWS. I mean, if it means that you need to go and click on the console and go through some of the configuration wizards on whether it's as you say, Elastic Beanstalk or EC2, etc. By just doing it hands-on, you're actually benefiting by going through and knowing what are the sort of things you can enable, disable, and what are the sort of consequences of doing some things like that. It sort of helps with the exam and certification as well, because you're actually not just practical, getting technical, theoretical training, sorry, but it's more practical as you do it. So that would be my key tip, along with obviously going through all the necessary stuff. So you need to go through in terms of white papers and other things you want to read, but getting hands-on practical experience definitely trumps everything else.
Yeah, and did you, have you, like when the specialties came out, were you going for those as a way to learn more about that particular area, or did you decide for yourself that you wanted to get all of those 12, and that was the sort of the main motivating factor was the Pokemon catch 'em all aspect of it?
No, I mean, as they sort of expanded, I was quite interested in the topics when they came out. So, the next sort of specialty, or the first specialty that came out, was big data. And it was quite an interesting topic to do because it was the in thing. Obviously, at that time, big data was quite a new topic for people to get into. And it was an interesting domain for me to get involved in. So I started looking into that. And I guess the next sort of specialty, if I'm not wrong, in terms of the sequencing was, advanced networking security. Obviously, key useful certifications to have in your belt. So it was, that was what I was more driven in. And I guess then subsequently, it was just trying to, as you say, trying to get some additional certification, but again, in different domains, which I thought would be quite interesting to do because, it's nice to know something, something new, something more exciting in the AWS. So like the machine learning one, for example. So that was my interest really, and I was just trying to expand my domain and knowledge.
Yep, gotcha. Whilst we're doling out advice to people, which of course as consultants that's what we do, right? It's the nature of the job. So you've talked a lot about the tooling around security, so Guard Duty and Security Hub and so forth. But there's the other side to that, right? Which is the human aspect, like the people that are responding to these incidents and doing things with it. Like the alerts are one thing, but actually making use of them is another. Have you got any advice for teams who are getting started with getting Guard Duty up and running? Like what's the next step? How do we involve the people in the process?
Sure. I mean, I guess I would say I could start out with a two-prong approach and then probably add in something additional to the end. So obviously you want to make sure that you've got the right skills in place to be able to understand how we want to respond to some of these events that are being triggered by Guard Duty and Security Hub. So obviously upskilling your existing teams and making sure they have the necessary skills to deal with such security events is probably one approach that every organization needs to look in and focus on. The other aspect is also not to shy away from, if you don't have the skills in-house, then start leveraging and making sure you bring in external capability to support and help with that. Making sure you've got external involvement to make sure you've got the right plans and you've got the appropriate responses to different incidences tackled and covered. So I would say those are the two key things to look in-house, upskill, or look for external. But again, as I mentioned in my presentation, one of the other aspects that we could start looking into is auto remediation. So some of these things might be something quite simple and straightforward that you could leverage a Lambda, leverage some other techniques to auto remediate some simple security findings. Either it's just simply putting in an IP address to block repeat offenders, for example. It's something that could also be leveraged as one of the tools to then sort of alleviate the operations teams to focus on activities that bring more business value for the organization. So, on top of the two things that I mentioned, this is probably the key one that I want to stress on, to see if you can auto remediate some of the things that you could fix.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think the general trend in the AWS landscape, of course, is that once we invest all this time and energy in automatically remediating something, it becomes an AWS project the following year, right? So you over time you have less and less stuff to maintain because AWS are doing the kind of the undifferentiated heavy lifting, I think we call it, right? Around that stuff.
Absolutely, and also if you look at the trend going forward, most of the operations team probably are looking into new technologies like AI Ops, for example, and that's the crux of AI Ops. Is pretty much is to look into how you can auto remediate some of the activities. Notwithstanding, obviously the focus is trying to reduce the number of incidents that have been triggered, but how do you automatically respond to those is quite key.
Yeah, I think that there's a sort of mixed industry opinion about whether AI ops is ever actually a thing that we will get to. I guess depends whether you listen to charity majors or not as a thing. I know we've got a couple of machine learning folk on the panel coming up, so maybe that'll be a question for you machine learning fans. Will we ever replace operations teams with AI? Who knows? Great, thanks, Satish. I believe so. You're an APN ambassador, which is something that I'm familiar with. I guess the audience may not be. Do you want to briefly sort of say what it is that you do around ambassadorship, and maybe if you've got a blog or a podcast or something to plug, let us know where we could find that.
Absolutely. So, I mean, as part of the ABN ambassador role, my role is basically trying to evangelize what AWS is about. Obviously, I do that within the firm. I also do that externally by, posting on social media. Some of the things that I do are mostly, writing articles, writing blogs, some interesting key technical knowledge in terms of what can be done on AWS, for example, or something around along the lines of how would people be interested in moving into the cloud and in terms of the cloud journey, whether it's to do with migration or being cloud native, etc. So obviously that's one other thing that I do. Obviously being on the user group at the moment is also one of the key things that I like to do in terms of presentations.
Going to get your points for that one?
Hopefully, yes, I should. Fingers crossed. And yes, I think that's pretty much what I'm set out to do, and as an ambassador, and hopefully I'm trying to fulfill some of those as we go along. So yeah.
Great stuff. Well, from one ambassador to another, Satish, thanks for joining this evening. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we will speak to you again soon.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. So that was Satish. Without Ferrero Rocher, seemingly. That's sad for him, but these things happen. I'm just going to pop over to this display with the noisy wipe. In case you have not yet entered the prize draw, if you'd like to win either an AppSync masterclass from Jan Kui and Gerard Sanz, or one of 2 Echo Dots, which you can use to turn your lights on and off and get fart jokes, and that's all I use mine for, basically. I'm sure that they have other uses as well. Maybe our panel can tell us what they use theirs for. And please do bear in mind that if you're entering the competition, if you want to win a dot, you need to be in the UK. I think actually mostly we've got UK people here today. We have on previous occasions had people from further afield. If you're outside the UK and you are right now in the chat, then do tell us where you're from. I think so far we've got Amsterdam is the only sort of external to the UK place represented this evening. But do let us know if you're from further afield. Right, so I have in my Skype green room a number of faces looking anticipatory. I'm going to press a button over here and bring them into the setup here so that you can also see their anticipatory faces. There are some faces. Hello, folks. Thanks for your patience sitting there without Ferrero Rocher in your digital green room. I'm going to call you by name. It'd be great for you to introduce yourselves as we go around. Let's start with Isa.
All right. So, my name is Isa Huerga, and I'm part of the developer relations team at AWS. So basically what I do is engage with builders. I don't want to say developers because I engage with anyone that is building, ideally on AWS. And my background is sysadmin. So I've been focusing, I also work as a TAM, so I've been focusing a lot on operational excellence. But one of the things I love doing and I'm passionate about doing is interactive activities. So I do workshops, I do game days, and this sort of activities. So if you want to know more, follow me. And I always do it whenever there is an opportunity. I know we don't do too many. So if you want us to do more, let me know or let John know. And he might be able to also organize some for you.
Great. Thanks, Isa. Phil.
Hi, I'm Phil Bassett. So I run the Ipswich AWS User Group and sort all them out and give talks there. And I'm also one of the Ferrero Rocher eaters as well. So yeah, an ambassador, and like Clive is going to speak next, part of the community builder program as well. So yeah, all good stuff.
Great. And Clive.
Hey guys, lovely to join you guys this evening. Clive Nethersole. I run the AWS User Group in the Thames Valley, and make sure that we've been running the event through COVID, which we're really chuffed about. And I'm one of the machine learning enthusiasts. Recently just got my ML cert, so very chuffed with that. And also, like Phil, am part of the community builders. Got my cap on, just to plug there. But really try and help the community in any way, in which way I can, and just help companies and individuals build on AWS.
Great. So a couple of community builders here. I think previous speakers on this very Twitch stream, Mike Fowler is also one of your number. As of this week, I believe there's a new cohort of builders just been announced. So if you're Mike, if you're on the stream, well done, congratulations. If anybody else is on the stream who's just been named a builder this week, again, congratulations. Clive, why don't you tell us, what does that mean? I mean, you've got a hat. Is it all about the hats?
No, it's definitely not. So it's all about getting out there, helping the community in whichever way you can, organizing events, looking at different ways in which we can engage with the community. One of the things that Isabella and myself, if I don't mind, we're organizing and trying to get the first user group deep racer league up and running in the UK, which is very exciting. And so there's lots of different avenues where we can help each other, and it's really supporting each other and supporting the community to really bring home this exciting time in our lives where the technology is great and we can go and build out and do so many things. It's an exciting time.
Absolutely. Phil, you're a builder and an ambassador. Who has the best swag? Which program is it?
It's actually the ambassador program has the best swag.
I've chosen the right one then, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, the bag is particularly awesome. So I didn't use my bag because I sort of went to the office today. I haven't used my bag since we got it start of the year. So I packed all my gym stuff and everything in my bag, and I didn't realise it had the electric protection stuff, so people can't scan your car keys in it. It's got cooler bag in it and everything. And I was like, oh, okay, this is quite impressive actually.
Yeah, room for a sandwich in the front, and
exactly.
Yeah, all pretty good.
And it stays.
I'd hold mine up, but it's in a different room. Actually, it's in a room that's got my wife in it right now, where she's been banished while I stream. Out of the way, wife. AWS Bag User Group UK says just play in on the channel. Yeah, fair enough. Let's talk about something else. So the EMEA Summit's coming up in 2 or 3 weeks. Is there anything that you're looking forward to in particular, Isa, maybe? I mean, you signed in. You're an Amazon employee, right? So you probably know all the kind of inside track. What can you tell us about what's coming up? That's the real question.
Well, I can tell you it's going to be 2 days, as you said, but the days are targeted for different audiences. So the first one is going to be the Builders Day. So I would recommend this for all the builders, as the name says, and this is developers, data scientists, security. I saw a cloud security guy helping today on the chat. So it's really anyone that is technical, and even technical leaders, I would say they might be interested on the sessions there. And it will have workshops, it will have sessions. There is a developer zone that is actually, it will contain sessions from the community, which is always very exciting. As Clive said, it's all about sharing knowledge. So that's very exciting, check that out. And then the next day is going to be the Innovators Day, and that is more focused on business executives, startup founders. So it's going to be focusing more on inspiring and helping all these individuals accelerate the business. So I would say the first thing you're going to notice that there are 2 different agendas, and in each day there will be a number of activities, different activities. So I would say check that out. And I will also, can I promote myself?
Yeah, you go for it.
Can I just like pitch it? So I'm very happy because I actually have a session with Morgan McLean, and we're going to be talking about end-to-end observability with open telemetry. So he's part of the open telemetry team, which is a project that hopefully you all know. So if you're interested on observability and open telemetry, that session is going to be part of the Builders Day agenda.
Great. Sounds good. Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that the first day is for people in t-shirts and the second day is for people in button shirts, right? Is that the distinction?
That sounds actually quite accurate.
Sounds about right. I'm actually usually a button shirt kind of guy in my business role, but I'm wearing my AWS t-shirt, so you can't see that. I've turned my video off to the people on Skype, so I'm a disembodied voice to them, which is why they might seem a little bit like, what's going on? Voice of God. Cool. Phil, anything that you're looking forward to in particular for the summit?
I'd like some cool announcements in the builder space around code pipeline and better cost accounting. I'd like Code Commit to be a bit more public facing, have a bit more features, a bit getting towards GitHub, and I'd like Code Guru's Python thing to actually check for things like PEP 8 standards, that kind of thing, where it seems to lack that capability at the moment. It's quite an MVP at the moment.
Yeah. These sort of products do tend to kind of start out a bit minimalist and then maybe wow you later on when you're not looking. But yeah, good stuff. Clive, anything that you're particularly interested in what's on your wish list or anything that you know that's happening that you'd like to talk about?
There's things around machine learning. Just I'd like to see more capabilities around that. And then the other thing is looking at landing zones and just design patterns and different things around landing zones and how different verticals can leverage landing zones and just what. Where I work, I haven't mentioned where I work, but we get a lot of queries around good design patterns for their different verticals and that. And it would be good to see some sort of design patterns and recommendations coming out and just good practice around those sorts of things.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, do you want to say who you work for, or are you sort of are you ashamed? Are you shy of it?
Absolutely not. No. I've worked. I work at a lovely company called Rackspace. I've been there for over 17 years now, so I'm definitely part of the furniture, and it's a very, very exciting time there, and totally enjoying being in the AWS space at Rackspace. Got some exciting things happening.
Yeah, I guess you've been with Rackspace sort of, I guess, since before Rackspace was an AWS partner, right? The kind of transition from dedicated server, managed server hosting, fanatical support, I guess, into Amazon are eating our lunch. Let's do that now.
Absolutely. We've had to. I've been through a company where I've seen it grow from a real startup company, mature to a more enterprise company, and then have to pivot and change offerings. So it's been a great place to learn and develop my career, and long may it last.
Yeah, well, right. I used to work for an ISP back in the days when like Rackspace were the big name in that kind of field. So it's been interesting to sort of see. Like we were always like, Rackspace are really big. They're taking all of our business, and then it became AWS not taking Rackspace's business, and now Rackspace are doing AWS. It's been an interesting time. Let's not talk too much about my feelings about Rackspace, I guess, which apparently are quite deep seated. I've forgotten just how viscerally I could react to the idea of Rackspace. Talk a bit more about the sort of the landing zone thing that you mentioned. Like, I think one of the things that we do is a lot that kind of it's a sort of, I guess, a best practice story for particular types of workloads. For us, it's B2B SaaS businesses for the most part. What are the things that vary between different businesses in that space? What are the things that the different types of companies need differently from each other?
There's we do quite a bit of work now for education sector and also just the wider ecosystem out there, specifically around educations and that, and it's looking at how to bring in a landing zone type solution for a wider organization that's going to then bring in different elements of the education sector into that, and then how does that work? And it could be then for any other vertical that I've just picked on education just because I've been working on that recently, but it could be for any other vertical, and it's just then how different verticals can then best suit themselves. There's no just necessarily one pattern that's going to, I think, work for every vertical, but in general terms, yes, there is a good approach, but there are going to be nuances between, and it's having good recommendations that for that.
Gotcha. Phil, do you work with education at all, or you sort of avoid that particular vertical? What are you working? What are you typically doing at the moment, I suppose, is the real question.
So mostly on things like transport and logistics, predictive maintenance, that kind of thing is quite hot at the moment, and also everybody seems to want a data lake at the moment, so doing lots around data ingestion and structuring people's data lakes to give them foundations to go on and do some of the more advanced analytics and machine learning capabilities.
Gotcha.
And kind of the coolest thing is when we start playing with IoT and streaming things in as well.
So real-time kind of reporting and remediation of physical things. Pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So you're obviously an ML fan, advocate, I suppose. Should we go back to the question we were talking about earlier on? Like, will we ever replace operators with machine learning? How do you feel about
that? I feel mostly that you'll still have operators and still people that need to respond to incidents and understand things. So it won't replace them completely. But I think it touches on that increasingly that AWS and everything does more for you. So it's where you spend the most valuable bit of your time. I think it's the key, and allowing the systems to take more control and do some of the more menial tasks, I think. So it's like understanding access patterns inside access logs, that kind of thing. I think a machine can do that, but then understanding exactly all the layers and how it interplays with your business domain and your applications is going to always sit back with the human.
Yeah, gotcha. Isa, obviously you're an AWS employee. Is AWS hoping that they can replace people with products? Is that the general plan?
I think we will always need builders. Definitely. I think it's about helping builders focus on the tasks that add value rather than, how did you call it before? The heavy lifting.
Yeah, it's undifferentiated heavy lifting.
Undifferentiated heavy lifting. Yeah, I think it's about that. It's about really helping builders focus on the things that really can make a difference, and everything that can be automated, try to remove it so we can make the most with our time, really.
Yeah, gotcha. Clive, where do you stand on the will we ever have robots replacing humans position?
I don't think robots will ever replace humans, but I think what will happen is they're going to be integrated into our lives. There's a call out that I'd like to make. A company that I'm following very closely, and get excited every time they make an announcement, or it's a little company that I think is going to help the agricultural sector, which is going to impact us all. So it's a little small company in the UK called the Small Robot Company. You'd never think that they do anything to do with agriculture, but what they're doing is they're taking this idea that we in IT all understand about distributing your services and not having everything in a monolith and that. So they're taking the ideas that we have in IT and applying that to farming. So using distributed swarms, if you want to call it, of lots of little things, doing a common task and doing that in a way that is efficient and good for the environment and for sustainability, and also then increasing yield on the land, which is incredible. It's an amazing company. So I'd call go and have a look at them. The Small Robot Company.
Great. I can see Paul, diligent as ever, just pasted the link to it into the chat. Well done, Paul. We actually had our last meetup. We had Velisva Boyer from AWS in South Africa talking about not that company, but a company doing sort of similar things. Where I think they use drone photography or something like that to work out like where they need to spray crops or something of that nature. And there's loads of machine learning stuff in there. Really kind of interesting. I think the feedback we got during and after that talk actually was that this was a really interesting domain that no one had really kind of. I think when as technologists you start to see an impact of your own work in something that isn't just like moving lights on a screen, it starts to feel a bit more tangible. Right? We start actually changing the world with the stuff that we're doing. Like, I mean, not me. I'm just running a consultancy. We're not changing the world, but people doing agricultural tech with robots, they're definitely changing the world. Good tip, Clive. We'll check them out. We've got a couple of minutes left. Any sort of burning questions you want to cover? Anything that you want to plug? Let's go. Isa, anything else that you want to kind of talk about other than the EMEA Summit, which we've already covered?
Well, then let me cover community builders, because I know you said that
yes.
Everyone here in the panel is a community builder.
Yeah.
So this is not a restrictive group. It's open. You can put yourself in the waiting list to get notified when we open the next cycle. And once the cycle is open, you can nominate, you can apply. And then, of course, all the candidates will be considered and only a few will be selected. But if you're contributing, as Clive said, if you're already contributing to the community, writing blog posts or participating in meetup, maybe doing talks or contributing maybe with open source projects, if you're really contributing to the community, feel free to, and you're interested, of course, in being a community builder, feel free to apply.
Great.
And maybe I'll find the link if Paul isn't faster than me.
Yep, great. I think in Phil's view, you need to up your swag game in the community builders landscape. I think there's a bar to clear, which is the ambassador bar.
To be honest, the best swag is none of them. The heroes got the old VR stuff, didn't they?
Ah, yes, that's right.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Yes, that we invent.
The requirements are higher, though.
Yes, yeah. There's definitely a sort of step thing.
So it's a league table, basically, and the swag goes up.
We're in the second division, Phil, as ambassadors. I'm afraid that's what's going on there. Anything that you'd like to plug, Phil, on the way out?
Just at the EMEA Summit, I'm speaking a part of the day job a couple of times, so look out for me speaking about ML ops and stuff as well.
Excellent, good stuff, Phil. Clive, anything you'd like to plug on the way out?
Not for me. Just enjoy the summit and look out. I'll hopefully be there and bump into me. Come and say hi.
Great stuff.
Good to meet everyone.
Great. Thank you, Clive. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Isa. Great to have you on the stream. We will see you again at some other juncture. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
So that was our panel, who can now quit Skype if you like. You're done. Thanks very much. A couple of questions in the Twitch feed. A couple of people asking, will things be online after the fact? Yes. The recording on Twitch will be available for I think 2 weeks as a kind of standard member of Twitch that we are. I will also be cutting together the individual talks and the panel session and the interviews with each of the talks into separate video packages that will be on YouTube. And usually I get that done within a couple of hours of the stream finishing, but I also haven't had dinner yet, and I'm in danger of eating 16 Ferrero Rochers, so the sugar crash might prevent that from being a thing that I can actually do. We will see. Let's just go back again to the buttons. So many buttons. I need a bigger stream deck. That's my next stupid purchase. There's still time to enter the prize draw if you are interested in winning an AppSync Masterclass from Jan Kui and Jared Sands, or 2 Echo Dots, or one of 2 Echo Dots. We're not sending them both to the same person. Then you can get your application in under the door like Indy going after his hat in those old films that no doubt you've all seen. We will be making the announcement about who's won that after this next talk. This next talk is from Dimple Dalby and Matt Wilkin, who are tech lead and senior engineer, respectively, for cloud platform and operations at comparethemarket.com, which is the Meerkat company, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with from broadcast television, unless you're all cord cutters, in which case maybe you've seen them on billboards. No, you haven't been anywhere all year. Maybe you don't know what they are. They'll probably tell you in the talk. Dimple and Matt have run Kubernetes in production for the last 2 years on AWS and are here to share their journey about doing that. I will throw the video over to them. Off you go.
Hello everyone. So today Matt Wilkin and myself will be talking about running self-managed Kubernetes clusters in production in AWS. So we are both from Compare the Market. We are from the cloud platform team, and we specialize in creating, running, and maintaining our own compute platforms for product teams. Yeah. So Matt will be going through a little bit of history. So how did we come about doing what we are doing today? And then he will be deep diving into why we did what we did and what the tools we are using to build the cluster. And then I'll be going over how our experience was running the clusters in production for over 2 years and what we have in store for the future. So I'll hand it over to Matt.
Hey everyone, I'm just going to be giving you some context on a little bit of our history, how we got to where we are now, and where we came from essentially. Right, so we started off with a legacy product, CloudCat. It's still in operation currently. It is a Terraform, Go, Bash script, homebrewed service deployment. Essentially, it deploys containers onto EC2 directly. For obvious reasons, this is very costly for us as a company. Resource utilization. It's very, very slow to deploy. It takes nearly 20 minutes per environment, so quite a long time. And as its legacy, the more and more we grow as a company, the less and less experience we have using that tool. So the company made the decision to move away from this method and use Kubernetes. And we enlisted the help of a third party to help us get set up with Puppet. At the time, none of our team really had any experience with Puppet. Our experiences in Chef. However, the company decided to go ahead with installing Puppet. Unfortunately, as a platform, it wasn't very good. It wasn't very stable. We found that we had a lot of instability with 500 errors. One team that we had on at the time was moaning because it was third party recommended. We found it very difficult to actually debug this situation. As I mentioned, there was a lot of lack of knowledge. Like I said, it was set up by a third party, so we didn't have the understanding of the configuration, and it made it very, very difficult to debug at any time. At the time, also, our team was only a size of 3, so it wasn't very big. So we didn't really have time to really develop. We was always firefighting, which was a problem for our team at the time. Again, the company decided to move away from that iteration and go directly using COPS. We did evaluate a few options at the time, and I think as a company, financially and community-based, we decided to use COPS going forward. It was definitely the best option for us. Unfortunately, our team actually downsized at the start. We actually went to 2 engineers, but the reason why we continued to pursue with this was because we needed to fix the problems I've already aforementioned. The good thing with COPS and with the new setup, it gave us the ability to do blue-green. It also gave us the ability to update our clusters versionings very easily because we tried creating it as generic as possible at the time, so it meant we could do all of our clusters update at one time. With later versions of Kubernetes, we was able to provide some more functionality and features to the product team and small amount of product teams that were entering or at least deploying onto our platform. So, for example, permission access, self-service tools, memory scaling, PR-based deployments, and these were just a few of the features and functionalities that we were actually able to provide early on. Our cluster is now very much stable. We don't see any issues with that. Teams are very, very happy with the user experience. And I think a couple of things that have helped us with that is obviously with the knowledge of the team. COPS is very well documented. It's got very well, it's community backed, and therefore our team were able to pick up the knowledge and the requirements needed to maintain our clusters. And as I mentioned earlier, we did start off as a team of 2, but we have now increased to a team of 10. So we've really been able to drive the production cluster forward. We've introduced an SDEP for testing, and we've got a lot more structure in terms of a BA and delivery manager. Okay, that's a little bit of context on our history. I'll move on to why we chose COPS and why we chose the services we're using currently. So we use AWS, but AWS for us is a legacy decision. So we already have a great partnership with AWS, so we would not move away from them, which just makes sense for us. As I mentioned earlier, we chose COPS for many reasons, but I think we can steal a line from them and use the easiest way to get a production grade Kubernetes cluster up and running. I think that speaks for itself, right? Obviously, it's open source, so it saved us a lot of money as a company. We didn't have to enlist the help of a third party to help us install it, which was great for us. And it also gives us the ability to manage the whole entire life cycle of the cluster, which was a big thing for us. We use Nginx as our ingress controller purely for the fact that it's the most popular ingress controller out there, and we also use it currently for our previous cluster and for CloudCat, so it made sense. We use Kayam as our AWS permission manager. I personally think it's the best tool out there, other than for self-managed, that is. So for us, we evaluated that, and that was great for us. Our monitoring is consistent of Logstash, Splunk, Prometheus, and one of our own homebrewed log exporters. It works for us. It's custom built, so it kind of works for our setup. So that's the reason why we chose those systems. We also use Helm. I really like Helm personally. It really gives us the opportunity to standardize our deployments, put restrictions in place where necessary, and also allows us to add functions and features really easily as and when they're requested by the team. I know you could argue there's a slight bottleneck with that, but it just means that we get to manage what goes into our cluster. We currently are only using, we only have stateless applications deployed onto our cluster. I don't think personally, as a company, we're ready for stateful applications, and we'd also like to discuss whether Kubernetes is the right place for that anyway. So lastly, you can see at the bottom of the slide, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. So a lot of our services that we use are legacy services or stuff that we've used before, like stuff like the Prometheus log exporter, Splunk, Prometheus. They're all services we've used across our estate. So as we have the knowledge and experience in them, it just makes sense to use them, as we already have the understanding of how they're set up. So yeah, that's a little bit of why we chose these. So if you have any questions, obviously at the end. I believe I'm going to pass you back over to Dimple now.
Cool. Okay, so I'm going to talk about how the whole experience was of running our services in production in Kubernetes. I must say, like, the 90% of it was fun, mostly because it was new to the whole team. We formed a new team, as Matt said before, just to take care of this migration process for the product teams. And currently, we have successfully migrated 90% of our product teams onto Kubernetes from EC2. And what that gave to the product teams in return was they don't have to worry about the overhead of managing their own infrastructure. We do that for them. We do the patching, we do the security upgrades, and all kinds of cluster upgrades are done by us. So that's an overhead we have taken away from the product team so that they can concentrate on building what they do best, which is the front-end services and services for the company in general. From the back of this migration to Kubernetes, we built a very strong team with an in-depth understanding of not just Kubernetes, but also how to do cluster administration from scratch. It gives us as a team more flexibility over the cluster as well, because we use COPS. We get to decide what goes on the cluster, when do we do an upgrade, and how that's different from a managed cluster is because we don't have to wait for a provider to do the upgrade for us. We do it at our own convenience. Same with security patches that we do on the cluster as well. The features that it gave us an experience of adding extra features onto the clusters that will help product teams, for example, for them to be able to deploy PR-based images onto the cluster. So that was one of the cool features we released last sprint, and that was so useful for them to test their features. But that's a big experience for us as well. And last but not the least, the cost. We have monumentally reduced the cost of running infrastructure on EC2 versus Kubernetes. Almost 40% of the cost was reduced by migrating these services over to Kubernetes, and that is huge for a company of our size. So I said 90% was fun, but obviously we had, there are pros and cons of running your own self-managed clusters, and one is the high operational overhead on our team itself. So we have around 30 product teams in Compare the Market, and for a company of our size, we are supporting 30 product teams with just 6 members of a compute. Our team is just 6, which means that all those components that Matt had taken you through, they have to be individually managed, upgraded, and maintained by our team. And to do so, you can't just do with any odd cloud platform team member. You need resources with in-depth knowledge of Kubernetes to be able to do so, which means resourcing is a big issue, because if we have to expand the team, we are looking for people with that kind of a skill set, which as you can imagine with the the age of Kubernetes, the number of people in the market with that much in-depth knowledge to actually maintain a cluster from scratch is not a lot. So yeah, we have problems with resourcing as well. And yes, as I said before, while we have the flexibility to do security patching and stuff from our side, we do monitoring as much as we can from our side as well. They are all built by us, and they are all stuck together by us. They are all maintained by us. There is no out-of-box security patches that that we can use. Again, that's time that we could be spent building features for product teams that we are using, doing maintenance work on the cluster. So yeah, so that's what our experience was on running self-managed clusters. That takes me to the next point, which is which people often ask us, is self-managed the right answer? And I genuinely think it depends on your company. It depends on the size of your company. So if you are a small company and you're starting from scratch with no knowledge of Kubernetes, I would say still probably managed cluster is your way to go, because you have very little resources to manage the cluster by yourself and your skill sets. The second is the capability of the team, and that is very important, because you need a separate team to build, run, and own these clusters. You can't have that that burden of building the cluster to be on a product team or a dev. You need a separate team to do that. And hence the size of the team that builds, runs, and owns these clusters are important, because that in turn depends on the size of your customer base. So we started with one team that migrated onto Kubernetes, and now when we have like 30 teams versus now when we have to support 30 teams, even us, like with 6 people, we are running out of time and we are running out of resources to do this on a full-time basis. Also, you have to think, what kind of team do you want yours to be? Do you want yours to be a support team that is firefighting and like maintaining a cluster, or do you want your team to be like that gets to build a cluster but integrate cool features into it, like service mesh, and like have aquasec running on it, and like build features that will help product teams ship things faster. So I think that's the decision that you have to make as a company. And lastly, that brings me to the point where are we, or what does our future looks like? So I think it is, for my team, I think it's very important that we bring down the operational overhead on the team, so we get more time to do things that we should be doing, which is shipping out features, like crucial features for our customers, and our customers to us is our product team. So hence, we have decided to go with managed Kubernetes. We have kicked off a prototype where we will be, testing out a few features and etc. for EKS. Hopefully, we'll have app mesh on it as well, and maybe like in a few months' time, we'll be back in this platform talking about managed Kubernetes. Who knows? But cool. Thank you. That's our talk for today. And any quick questions?
Thank you, Dimple and Matt, who are joining me right now from the green room, or their own homes, over on Skype. Let's pull them in now. Hi, folks. Thanks for your patience sitting around waiting to talk to me. Kubernetes is obviously a very, I guess, an emotive topic for quite a lot of technologists. Certainly, looking in the Twitch feed. So no doubt, lots of interesting stuff to get into talking about there. Before we get onto the Kubernetes story, I'm kind of interested in, like, you talk about running Kubernetes on COPS. Like, what of the rest of the AWS ecosystem do you use in your applications? Like, what other bits and pieces are part of your estate? Either of you can answer that.
Yeah, I'm behind. I'm like seeing it a lot later and hearing it a lot later.
Gotcha.
So currently we're using the standard stuff like IAM and S3. What other stuff have we got, Dimple, that would the team use?
We use Mongo. So we have like 4 different pillars. So we start with like infrastructure, observability, then we have the compute team, we have the storage and messaging, and we have what we call the DevX. So infrastructure is like we use anything from like EC2 instances, Lambda, Mongo, Lambda, and for databases they have like MongoDB, RDS, and so CloudWatch, CloudTrail. So like our estate 100% is on AWS. So anything we, so all our services are, like AWS based. I think ours is one of the pillars that are kind of inclined to use open source tools outside AWS, but yeah.
Gotcha. I'm going to go to the Twitch feed where there are a couple of questions. I think you've answered some of them in your talk already, but we might sort of call out particular points of them. I mean, I enjoyed Guns of Brixham's view that every time he sees something to do with, I assume every time they see something to do with Kubernetes, it makes them think of when they used to run WebSphere and then want to cry. I don't know if most people running Kubernetes remember WebSphere, but apparently you do, Dimple. You've run WebSphere. You've had an enterprise career, is what I'm interpreting from that basis.
Yeah, I think I worked with Accenture for over 3 years, and one of the clients over there used WebSphere for their e-commerce, and like it was a strange role. Like, it was to automate WebSphere in Chef using Chef, as I wouldn't put both of them together today. But
yeah, I did some work. Probably about 11 years ago with a broadcaster in the UK who were running WebSphere and trying to automate that. But in the days before automation was widely accepted as a thing that you should probably do, and WebSphere just did not play at all. It had no concept of automating other than maybe kind of writing XML files with shell scripts and then hupping the processes and hoping everything worked okay. It was not a good time. It was not a good time at all. And I guess Guns and Brixham is saying that that's their experience of running Kubernetes. Maybe. So Cloud Security Guy asks, what was the biggest, if only we knew, at any of the stages? Like, what was the thing where you kind of look back and went, oh, if we'd known this thing, this would have made our life way easier? Matt, maybe you can take that one.
It made it easier. I don't know. I think for us, because I've been involved in a few of the stages since I've been a competitor. I've been there for 4 years, like for nearly 4 years now, and I was a part of the Puppinetti's stuff. Yeah, that wasn't great, but I personally would use probably managed now. I think if you can, I think you would probably start using managed as all the services that you can use, self-managed as the overhead, all that sort of stuff. I would probably avoid that, especially like Dimple mentioned earlier. If you're a small team and you don't have much expertise, it takes a long time to sort of build up that knowledge to debug a cluster if anything's going wrong, or maintain it. So the opportunity to go to EKS is great for us. So yeah.
I was just while your talk was on, I was just kind of scrolling through my work Slack where we have an RSS feed from AWS's blog about new services, and whilst we're talking this evening, they've just released a new load balancer controller that can target NLB things, and that's just happening in the background, right? You get all of that for free at that point, right? But it sounds like you started building this before EKS was available. I think it's fair to say that Amazon were pretty late to the party with a managed Kubernetes offering. Like Copsa was obviously the right choice for you at that time. What is your kind of process for? Like, are you currently evaluating EKS? Is it somewhere on a backlog with the hope that you'll get to it at some point when you can stop firefighting problems with your existing cluster?
We are actually aggressively building a new platform on EKS. So we have set our team like a 4-month prototype periods where we will be trying to migrate like at least one simple product team onto EKS and see how we fare. We also want to start using app mesh as well. So we have some exciting.
Yeah, I think for us as a team, we have a lot of legacy custom built stuff that we would love to get rid of, and I think EKS gives us that opportunity to move away from all them tools that that you have to ad hoc change or apply something in there just to accommodate a team or something like that, and I think that's where we want to move away from getting some standardization with community-backed tools and stuff. So
yeah, can you talk a little bit about how you support those teams? Because I think if you're the way you described your working is you're kind of a platform team, right? I think that's in the name of your department. And if you listen to people like Matthew Skelton talking about team designs, like a platform team is sort of an enabler of other teams, right? Providing abstractions and support and that kind of thing. To what extent have you been able to do that versus getting sucked into the whirlwind of dealing with that team's stuff? Because that strikes me as the main sort of problem with the main difficulty kind of striking that balance.
So we are the cloud platform team, as you said, and our customers are the product teams. So whether we run the platform on self-managed clusters or EKS, they don't really care as long as we supply them with a secure, robust, fast performing platform. So the migration, how we deal with the product team is we have an SLA of 99.93%. So that's our uptime that's expected for compare the market. So as long as we maintain that throughout the year, we are doing what we can for the product teams, and they consist of like there are 200 members, and in the product team versus 6 of us in the compute platform. So you can imagine like the load that we are battling against each day. But yeah, I mean, we kind of take away the overhead of infrastructure away from them. But what we do is we build self-managed tools for them to be able to see what they should be seeing, or they want to see, like the logs and stuff from Kubernetes on like the open. Yeah.
Just to jump on that as well, I think stuff like any features and functionality that they require, it gets sort of like bottlenecked because of stuff like upgrades. Like as much as we get the being able to upgrade when we want and add feature stuff like that when we want, it means that we have to do it as engineers. We have to do it, and therefore that sort of hinders the process of being able to provide more functionality and features. We have to go, oh, do we want to upgrade this month, or do we want to provide this feature? And we've mentioned a few numbers of how many people are in our team, but we have 6 actual engineers versus a team of 10. So we only have actual 6 people that can do the work, and they vary in skill set. So therefore, we only have so much resource to do all the extra bits, the maintenance, as well as provide the functionality. And I think that's where EKS, managed services is really going to help us as a company.
Yeah, and when you're working with a product team who maybe needs an RDS database or something like that, are you providing that alongside the COPS cluster? Do you use any of the controllers for managing AWS resources from within the Kubernetes ecosystem, or are you kind of, I guess, standing those databases up for the team and giving them the credentials and stuff that they need?
They are sort of. Oh, sorry, you go, Dimple. It looked like you was going to answer that.
Oh no, it's okay. You go.
Yeah, okay, so a lot of our databases are. So we use Mongo, and they're all standalone. So we provide them with the credentials, and and they sort of and we have an actual pillar for managing that. So I think I mentioned inside of the presentation about stateful apps and stuff like that. So we don't have anything like that on our cluster.
Yep.
So I think standalone.
I think that's a sensible choice. I don't think I've seen anything good come of running stateful apps on Kubernetes right now. Maybe if you're watching in the stream and you've successfully run stateful apps on Kubernetes, tell us how. Tell us your secrets. Tell us your ways. So Ratty Miles asks, what kind of logging metrics are you collecting, and what are your contingency plans if they become unhealthy on Kubernetes?
Is this service or cluster?
Well, let's talk about both. Both fairly interesting, I think.
So like with the logins metrics, we obviously have Prometheus exposing those metrics for us, and we obviously have alerts going into our channels to check whether our cluster is up and healthy, if nodes are not are not coming up. I think the good thing about stuff like self-managed in this particular case is that you're able to SSH onto masters, and you can figure out what's going on without having to wait, which is really great. And I think it sort of goes on to his contingency plan. So we do like backups of etcd and stuff, so that we can if any of our etcd goes down, we can back it up and we don't lose any of our data. So we have also like starting to get DR in place and stuff, so for example, if anything does completely go wrong, AZ go down or anything like that, we could rebuild a cluster within depending on the time it takes to the AZ to come back up, we could be able to spin up a new cluster and be able to serve traffic like that way. So there's a few. I don't know if you want to get involved in the service stuff, Dimple.
Yeah, we do collect app logs as well, but they're not stored anywhere. Like they're not persisted anywhere as of now. But that is something that we are looking to do even we go into EKS. Persist app logs as well, because it will be useful for the developers to have a look at least for like a longer period of time, like more currently it's 2 hours or so,
right.
More like we can persist it longer. Yeah.
Gotcha. Someone in the Twitch feed asks, I keep saying Twitch feed, it's the Twitch. This is the Twitch feed. They're the Twitch chat. The Twitch chat's asking, Dimple mentioned Lambdas briefly earlier. Are there plans to move or refactor apps into a serverless way of thinking?
Actually, quite the opposite, because we are aggressively pursuing EKS. Like we don't want to be supporting more than like a few compute platforms. So we are kind of ditching Lambda, and we are encouraging the other teams to containerize their apps and get them onto Kubernetes. What exists on Lambda, we are going to leave as such, unless they want to get on the new platform.
Right. So it sounds like your Matt. It sounds like your team set standards. Essentially, you're pretty much dictating what the dev teams can do. It's not that you're sort of subservient to their needs and requirements. You're kind of saying, here's what we can support for you. Off you go. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah.
I think off that though, we do have an architectural forum, so developers do get to drive stuff. So as a team, we're only the compute team, and obviously we don't get to make decisions like that. So for example, in Lambda's case, we don't actually get to make that decision. And I think compared to markets, architecture does. So we have forums where the developers will take follow the process, the documentation. If they want to use Lambda, they have to give a reason why. That sort of stuff. I think in our particular case, Lambda was rejected at an architectural level, and was we've been approved for EKS instead. So we don't kind of get to make those decisions.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess in larger businesses, that's often the case, right? You have these sort of central decision-making parts of the organisation that you can feed into, but it sort of it would be inefficient to have everybody deciding what to do willy-nilly across the organisation, right? But I guess the counter view is that unless you allow a bit of freedom, then people get frustrated with what they've got and basically hate you, which is the old sysadmin way, right? You're like, you will use Perl, and you're going to use MySQL, and you're going to use Slackware, and those sorts of conversations don't end up very well for those teams ultimately. Cool. Is there anything that you'd like to plug? Any products? Any more speaking engagements? Anything you're particularly looking forward to at the AWS Summit, Amir?
No, none from me.
No, nothing from me either.
Gotcha. Great. So thanks for joining us this evening, Matt and Dimple. One brief final question from the floor, which is, what is the standard pronunciation? Is it Kubernetes or is it Kubernetes? Let's have that as your last question, Matt. What do you reckon?
I pronounce it Kubernetes, but that's just me. So that's how I like to say it. That's how I pronounce it.
Dimple?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I have no Kubernetes. No.
I'm agreed. Like, it's a Greek word. It comes from ancient Greek, I think. And the Greek people that I've spoken to about this pronounce it Kubernetes. So we should probably listen to the Greeks, I think, given that it's their language, is my view. Thanks for joining us, folks. It's been great to have you on the stream. Hope you'll stick around, answer any more questions that come up in the chat. And otherwise, we'll see you again soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye bye. So that's all the talks we have this evening. I have a couple of further announcements to make before we wrap up for the day. We have another shout out for the inclusivity scholarship. If you are from an underrepresented group and you would like to learn public speaking, maybe you have an ambition to be on this video feed at some point or on our stage in an in-person event, telling your story as Matt and Dimple have just done. And if you are not quite sure where to start, this is probably the way to do that. So do sign up before the 9th of June for the course on the 23rd, and we will get you involved in doing that. The other thing we have to do today, Matt's going to like this if he's still watching, because our raffle winners this evening include Matt Wilkin, which entirely reasonable. He had no way of manipulating the outcome here. In fact, I didn't manipulate the outcome. I have nothing to do with this. I just get this in my Google Doc and I put it on the screen. Someone else is taking care of this. So our first prize winner, which is the AppStream course from Yankui, is Raj Patel. Well done, Raj. We'll be in touch with details about that. Second place with an Echo Dot is Matthew Wilkin. Well done, Matt. And third place with another Echo Dot, Eleanor Lowe. Congrats, Eleanor. You have an Echo Dot on the way, assuming that you live in the UK, and we will be in touch for your address so that we can send that to you shortly. That's going to be Paul. I'm not going to do that. I'm assuming that Paul does this, right? I do this thing every couple of months. We're like, yeah, you've won the thing. Sort of assuming that somebody else sends them the prize. I think we can probably trust that. Yeah, Paul's confirming that in the chat. Good. That's gives me a level of confidence. Well done, Paul. Thank you again to our sponsors, Deloitte, East Energy Solutions, Sainsbury's Tech. They are, of course, hiring. Codurance are also hiring. The Scale Factory is hiring. In fact, everybody's hiring. If you listen to recruiters talk, and I don't recommend it for the most part, but some of them are okay. They are talking about right now. It is a bloodbath out there of people trying to find people who can do AWS things. So, good excuse if ever there was one to do some of that training and skilling up that we were talking about earlier. I'd also like to thank my co-conspirators who have been beavering away behind the scenes and whose face you don't really see. That's Paul. You've seen him in the channel chatting away. Nat, you've also seen her in the channel. Also Jonas, who I don't think has been in the feed this evening. Yo-Yu, who definitely has and who's championing our certification drive. And Ijaz, who shows up sometimes. I haven't seen Ijaz. Ijaz, are you on the feed? Say hello if you're around. Also, I asked earlier on whether we had anybody from outside of the UK, and it turns out that we actually have had people join us from Ghana and Nigeria, I believe. So great to have you on the stream, folks. It's good to see that we're reaching far and wide. Just a reminder that the first AMA that we're doing is with Jan Kui. That's going to take place at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, the 26th of May, which is next week, in fact. So if you have any questions for Jan and you'd like to know, for example, what does it take to be an AWS hero, or what's in your app stream course, or I don't know, I've got this really awkward Lambda problem, can you solve it for me for free rather than me paying you consultancy rates? Why don't you go over to the Discord, which you can find a link to in the channel and also in this QR code, and go and ask those questions right now. You've got a week to put those questions in the feed. You can upvote and downvote questions that are already there, and Jan will be joining us next week to answer those questions. So do go and put those in. And our next meetup is going to be on Wednesday, the 14th of July. I'm pretty certain that's going to be online again rather than in person. So we will see you on Twitch for that in the next couple of months. Thanks again for joining. It's been great having you listen to me blether for the most part. I'm John Topper. I'm hiring. I'm going to put that in there again because I have the microphone and the buttons. Nobody can stop me. It's been great to present for you this evening. I'm going to go and eat my way through literally all of these Ferrero Rocher rather than actually have any sensible dinner. The ambassador is really spoiling us. Thank you very much. I will see you again at some other time. Goodbye.